Hello, I'm Toby Fox from 1.5 Million New Homes, the local government challenge, sponsored by Redloft and by Mount Anville and Pittman Tozer Architects. Now, I'm visiting a different council every month to find out what works and what needs to change to get more homes built. And this month, I've come to Westminster. So I'm here with James Green, who is Regeneration and Development Director at Westminster City Council. James, tell us a bit about Westminster. Where are we, and what's so special about this place?
Well, I think, firstly, what's so special about Westminster is everybody knows Westminster. Obviously, it's a globally recognised place. We've got the West End, we've got the theatres, we've got all the landmarks that everyone's aware of, including Buckingham Palace. But it's a tale of two cities, Whilst we've got the economic drivers of the West and the West End, it's one of the most deprived wards in London. We've got the most affluent areas in Westminster, some of the highest property values globally. But a third of the population of Westminster are living in council housing, with some of the most deprived wards in London. So it's a really challenging environment, much opportunity, but many challenges at the same time. So from a borough's perspective, we've got a huge drive to provide modern, decent accommodation for families and residents of Westminster.
But you've also got an obligation to protect those economic drivers, haven't you? Those sort of globally recognised aspects of Westminster. So is that a kind of fine line to tread, looking after the kind of commercial developers and the need for more office space and so on, at the same time as you're trying to provide for some of the most underprivileged people in London?
Yeah, so, from a council's perspective, it's about a fairer Westminster, fundamentally. Okay. And yes, we have to recognise the economic drivers of Westminster, the money that's brought in, because that ultimately provides for the city and the surrounding benefits for London itself as well. But people have got to live, work and grow in Westminster, and a third of residents live in council housing. But not only that, we've had 6,000 applications for accommodation, 6,000 people on the waiting list.
This is in the last year? Or?
Well, in total.
Okay.
So that's up from an average of about 4,000. So there's been a huge demand and spike for temporary accommodation. Yeah. And the council's recognising that. We've allocated just under £180 million to essentially build and develop temporary accommodation across the borough, which...
Can I unpack that a little bit? So what's causing that spike? Where is that demand coming from? Have you got any intelligence on that?
Well, it's coming from private landlords and families being in the upheaval from renting from private landlords, putting rent up, the accommodation not being good enough, frankly. And people finding that they're, looking for somewhere to live. And obviously, the council is the first port of call, really, for that.
And when you say you're providing temporary accommodation, what form does that take?
All sorts, really. So obviously, first and foremost, we will look to the private sector accommodation to house residents temporarily, but we're also taking on the responsibility of actually acquiring and building our own temporary accommodation. So be that purchasing blocks or purchasing land to develop TA. And we've got a site that we're currently doing very close to City Hall that's a refurbishment and will provide about 40 temporary accommodation homes. So there's a lot to do. And that on top of building social rent affordable homes as well means there's great challenges and great demands on the council.
So how are you doing in delivering? What are these targets? What are your targets, James?
Well, the targets are huge, frankly. To 2040, we're set to deliver 9,000 homes. Well, that's our target to deliver. So, in a borough that's 70% conservation area, that's built out, the density, that's a massive challenge just to find the land and the space to build those homes. But, optimistically, we've got a pipeline. We've got a pipeline currently of about 2,500 homes. We're actively seeking more land, more opportunities. We're actively encouraging the private sector to come forward, to RPs to come forward. So there's opportunity, but it's not easy. It's not easy. And we've talked a lot about current climate, challenging times, RPs and developers rolling back slightly. So really, again, it's on local authorities to, bring forward the burden of that responsibility, really. And that's what we're tending to do.
And we're in is it the Paddington growth zone?
Yes, that's right.
Tell us a bit about that zone and the sort of role that's playing in your plans to deliver those homes.
Yeah, so we, as I said, one of the most deprived areas is the north of the borough, which includes Paddington and above. And we've led from the front at Paddington Basin by bringing forward Dudley House, which has been, a fantastic scheme. It's predominantly affordable housing. There's a school in there. There's even a church in there as well. And that was delivered about 4 years ago. It's been very successful in terms of the intermediate rental model that was in there. But not only that, that's led on to the scheme we're currently standing at now, which is 300 Harrow Road, which completed about 18 months ago. It's 100% affordable. The administration made the decision. It was originally going to be a cross-subsidy scheme, but the administration decided to turn it into 100% affordable to recognise the waiting lists, the numbers that we've talked about. And that's a great example of what can be done in terms of affordable housing delivery, but also at Church Street, the Regeneration at Church Street, which we're bringing forward, 1,200 new homes, first phase underway with our partner Mount Anvil. In a 50-50 joint venture. It's a great opportunity, to really regenerate an area that has, struggled, with socio-economic challenges, for a number of years. And we're on site there now. We're demolishing the existing buildings, and we're looking forward to starting construction there next year. So fantastic time, really. And
we've talked a bit about direct delivery and the significance of that in Westminster, but that's a joint venture. Why is that a joint venture and not direct delivery?
Oh, it's a really good question, Toby. I think,
Thank you.
we're doing a lot. We've got a lot on our plate. And we recognise that you can do so much, but you also need to seek skills and expertise from others to help you on your journey. And a scheme like Church Street, we recognise that it's a complex construction scheme. There's a cross-subsidy model there, so there's private sale houses, and we look to the market to come forward, match the skills that we've got, and essentially the marriage value of the two will bring forward a much stronger proposition for a longer term, because we're going to be at Church Street for the next 10, 15 years. The first phase has got to be successful, and to bring forward a partner that's skilled in sales, marketing, delivery can only benefit what we're trying to achieve.
When you talk about being at Church Street for 15 years, it does put into perspective this need to get 1.5 million new homes built within a single administration, a single government, parliament. The number of schemes that you'd have to have going nationally in order to be delivering on that sort of scale is really phenomenal, isn't it? How do you reflect on those sorts of numbers from the perspective of what Westminster can genuinely deliver?
I mean, we're incredibly optimistic. We're incredibly driven, and our track record, speaks volumes about what we can do. I think we have to be realistic. What's achievable? We're at a point in the economic cycle where it's very difficult to do development, especially in central London. We talked about, interest rates, inflation, global market uncertainty. All of those things conspire to making building houses quite difficult. So I think, the optimism of delivering 1.5 million is great. It gives us something to aim for, and we will all push together as hard as we possibly can. I think we've just got to be realistic about the numbers that we can actually achieve, because I think that equates to about 300,000 homes a year. We're currently delivering half of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 1,200 starts in London in
1,200
Q1.
starts in London Q1.
Yeah.
We're building at 2009 levels, and we're selling at 2011 levels just after the financial crisis. There's a big lag. We've also got the whole building safety issue that we're all going through. Very difficult to get through that process to deliver high-rise buildings.
Yeah.
And the reality is, if we're going to deliver those sorts of numbers in central London especially, we've got to build high. So there's a lot of challenges. But I think one thing I will say about this industry, us as local authorities, is all of those challenges there's a solution for. It's just finding that solution, putting it in place and moving forward.
James Green, Westminster City Council, thank you very much for your contribution to 1.5 million new homes.
Thanks, Toby. It's been really great to be a part of this. Thank you.
And that's just about it for another episode of 1.5 Million New Homes, the Local Government Challenge, sponsored by Redloft and Mount Anvil and Pitman Tozer Architects. We're going to be back in a few days with more from Westminster, but until then, if you could hit like and subscribe, we'd be really grateful. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching.